Hey everyone. Hey. Yeah, you guys can definitely hear me. We're not gonna be watching anything. I don't think we're gonna be watching anything, but welcome to the live stream. I am so appreciative of you guys being here. What's up in chat? We are live over at Rumble and also on YouTube, and we have a lot to talk about, stuff that I want to say. First of all, I do want to say, um, well, first of all, I should say welcome to the Square Circle Podcast. I'm your host, Marie Shadows, and we're here talking about wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, the drama, and everything like that. But first, I want to say thank you to the Rumble users and viewers who decided to check out my channel and give it, a follow. Just so you know, I do not consider anybody that decides to follow any of my channels, whether it's across like on Twitter, on YouTube, on Rumble, on Twitch, even. I do not consider you guys like just a number. I consider you guys to be, acquaintances and eventually get up to being a friendship. I basically acknowledge everyone that comes into the chat, either by like their screen name or, just by some quirk that I remember them by. And I love the fact that they are with me and watching and asking questions and not being a jackass, and not coming to the streams when it benefits them because they hear through the grapevine, I get to talk about somebody or whatever they do. And most of the time, if I do talk about somebody, it is mainly for their actions, nothing personal. It's just, their actions and shit like that. But thank you to the people that decided to follow my channel to bring me up to 32 friends now, rather than I was at 26 for a while, and that was like very, very stagnant that I was at 26. But yeah, thank you for being here. If you want, you guys can say what's up in chat. I would definitely acknowledge it. And do I have and if anyone is on Twitter, you guys can retweet that for me if you can. That'd be fantastic to let people know that I'm here. I should be telling the other platforms that I'm live, just because I want to get more people in here to talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, but it is Friday and it's about to be 1 p.m. So I don't know if anyone wants to watch this on their lunch break or whatever. But I will say that, you know, I was gonna be like, oh, we're talking about wrestling. I don't know. I have some stuff planned out, not a lot. And I do not think we're gonna be that long of a live stream. Maybe, maybe not. But I do wanted to come on here and be like, thank you to the people that followed me and followed the channel and whatnot. And it is a very different community. Rumble is very, very different in terms of like who's really cool, who's working their ass off, and I'm still trying to get to know the community and what to do. And it seems like it's just very easy to create events. And there's a lot of people on Twitter that would give advice about, how to get your Rumble up there, right? And like how to get your name out there and how to like do this and do that. And the the one advice that keeps coming back is to participate in the events that happen. And in my head, I'm like, well, I need to try to find, events that happen on Rumble. It's very, very different from YouTube in a way. But I guess it's very similar to if I was like, hey, I want to do a wrestling roundtable or like a society issue roundtable, because I personally don't want to use the word politics because not everything, I'm not too far into that, but I'd rather talk about societal issues because people take it from 0 to 100 on things, and the only source of evidence that they get is from mainstream media and their friends and their surface level takes and thinking and whatnot. And you could definitely tell. This is why sometimes living in New York City, born and raised in New York City, is a blessing and a curse. I say a blessing because it introduces you to like a lot of different thought patterns, different people from all walks of life and whatnot, and you have to learn how to tolerate them because it's not just you; it's a community, right? it's you trying to figure out boundaries. It's you trying to figure out this and that, and you have experiences and stuff like that. The curse comes with that people get so comfortable with what they hear that they're not going to go beyond what they hear, meaning that they can hear something as surface level, like the news saying that, something that's current with ICE. I guess we'll start with them because of AEW, but we'll get there. That, like, they're taking specific types of people just based on their skin color, and then the people in New York City who are low IQ, that they would just run with that and they wouldn't do any type of research, or they wouldn't try to have common sense where it's like, hey, if you just listen to what they ask, you wouldn't become a statistic and you wouldn't be a talking point in a never ending loop of you need to believe these talking points or else, stuff like that. Where, like, I know people personally will not be trying to do more research into the surface level talking points that they hear and that they get, and they just continue just to say it. And then when you try to push back on them, like, you're the number one enemy. So just very, very quickly, because I don't want to make this the focus of the stream, because I have Discord notes for talking about societal stuff, but, politics seeping into wrestling, there has always been politics within wrestling. However, the smart thing to do this, so that way it's not so much in your face, is basically through characters and through story. And within that journey of the story, you have obstacles, where the obstacles is the challenges that the wrestlers need to overcome. And sometimes doing that kind of storytelling can help bring awareness to certain issues in certain situations. And it's not so, like, in your face, I want to make a statement, I don't care what you say, and then people want to throw around, freedom of speech and freedom of expression, which, yes, it is within your right to say what you want to say, but then there's also consequences, and there's also a time and a place for saying really huge statements. For really huge, bold statements, there is a time and a place. But for some reason, these people don't want to abide by that. These people don't want to acknowledge that. They want to become children, and they want to act like toddlers. Like, they don't know right from wrong anymore, and they want to throw tantrums, and they want it their way, because we entered into a selfish era within the world. And it's like, you either listen to them or you don't, or they're going to cry and they're going to make your life miserable. And I don't know why people don't really, like, just punch them once in the face and they'll probably get it. They'll scream being a victim, but they'll eventually get it. Like, it'll probably click in their head like, oh, this is not acceptable, discipline. But, you know, there's a reason why AEW doesn't go above what they're capable of doing, and that reason is that they listen to the internet and they end up doing what the internet tells them to do. And it was very wrong that we had to include almost everybody into the wrestling community that has just made it about them and made it about, like, if they don't get their way, they're going to complain. And then they're going to tell you what to think, what to like, who to cheer for. Don't cheer for this person. This person is old. Why does this person, get the championship title? Why can't my favorite get the championship title? And we say this all the time, that, like, your favorites can't always win. And we say it all the time that, just because a wrestler loses doesn't mean that they're buried. And if you don't know much wrestling lingo and language, Being buried is basically the result of losing match after match after match after match after match. You therefore you are called a jobber. However, we could also use buried, that the company is burying them. They could get all the championship opportunities in the world, but if they keep losing, it's essentially being buried. That's basically what it is. It's like you propped up one wrestler and you're like, okay, this is the guy going for whatever championship title that you have in mind, and they're on this journey. They have these several matches, and the more times that they lose, not only are they a jobber, but they're being buried by the company. And sometimes if a wrestler on the WWE side of things loses like one match, the bots and the internet goes crazy, and they automatically like, oh, this person is a jobber and this person is being buried. And it's like, no, that's not how it works, man. Like, I understand that the way that wrestling is booked nowadays can feel sort of tedious in a way. It's long-term booking. When you have the attention span of like shorts and TikTok, and it's only like maybe a minute and a half, 5 seconds at best. You're always gonna want like your wrestler to always win, and if they're not providing that on a week to week basis, these people like lose their damn mind. So, just explaining some wrestling lingo there, because on Rumble, I don't know how many people are wrestling fans. And I don't know how many people know the wrestling lingo and the backstage stuff as much as I do, because I am a former WWE employee, even though I worked on the WWE network. But I've been on the indies and I have vlogs and I have all of that. And I'm bringing that to Rumble. Yo, Hernandez, what's up? Good afternoon. I have no idea what GTSY is. My I appreciate that, Hernandez. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But I seriously don't know what. Oh, good to see you. Okay, good. Thank you. Listen, I don't know every acronym, and that might reveal my age, but like, it's great to see you in my chat as well, man. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for putting up that tweet, man. I've found some really good people to follow back and whatnot. I appreciate that. I'm just trying to grow and have my mic and have my passion and talk about the things that I want to talk about on both, Rumble and like elsewhere. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. But yeah, so as I say all of that to explain wrestling lingo again, I know that slowly there are like wrestling creators on here. And I follow Sports Jedi, who also does wrestling content on here too. So he's another one that knows wrestling, and he has his co-host Chris with him, and they talk about like TNA, and they talk about WWE, they talk about all that, and they get into some really good topics and whatnot. But I'm here doing like the New Japan side of stuff, so the Japanese wrestling and whatnot. And then also MLW, Major League Wrestling, which I occasionally work for them like freelance, and basically reviewing the show. In my back catalog here on Rumble, I basically have the MLW review of Battle Riot and whatnot. And we talk about with my co-host Dose Evil. But yeah, so getting back to like AEW and whatnot. AEW, which is All Elite Wrestling, allows people to just do whatever they want to do. And it's not very beneficial, because the moment that you allow people to do what they want to do, that's when everything goes downhill. And you know how they say that any publicity is like good publicity? Like last week's publicity, and maybe it ran for like 2 weeks, I don't know. But the publicity of AEW getting picked up by mainstream media such as like CNN and CBS and whatnot, and we all know like they end up producing a lot of harmful shit to people that are watching, aka fake news, right? To basically say, well, not say, they reported on the Las Vegas crowd or even the California crowd or whatever it was, the Las Vegas crowd, chanting, F ICE, which I don't agree with, obviously, because, as a woman, I shouldn't have to be telling my mutuals on X and everywhere else. Like, I shouldn't have to be telling you guys that as a woman, I feel safer now that the majority of the streets in New York City are cleaned up. I shouldn't have to be telling my mutuals why ICE is beneficial to protect the women of the United States of America, to protect the children of the United States of America, to find the people that are lost in the United States of America or wherever else they may be lost at. Like, I shouldn't have to go out of my way to try to convince people that ICE is a good thing to have. And we've been having it ever since its inception. And even Tom Holman got a medal to honor him and his bravery and the job that he does. And he got that award, that medal, by Obama. But now all of a sudden it's a problem to have ICE go into the communities that have been damaged to get them out. So that way the communities can somewhat heal from the damage of the last administration. But like, wrestling fans don't want to acknowledge any of the real life shit, but they would acknowledge allegations that have nothing to do with them and allegations to where they weren't even there. And this is why sometimes I push back against the community and talk about these issues and talk about these things, because it seeps into wrestling, where wrestling should be the escapism, and it seeps into other things too, where you can't have a normal conversation with wrestling fans unless like you go outside, like actually outside and touch grass, like they say, and go to the events and talk to people, and hopefully nothing stupid gets brought up. But that's the only time where you could probably have like an honest conversation with somebody, is really outside and just interviewing people about wrestling and being like, hey, can you identify these two wrestlers? Or what do you think about WrestleMania this year? Or what do you think about, Roman being in the picture? Or what do you think about, John Moxley being in the picture, or something like that? When you have those conversations with people, that's the only time where you could actually have true conversations with people. But on the internet, it's such a closed bubble that nobody wants to acknowledge the other person to be like, oh, I can see it from that perspective. But yeah, AEW got covered for the F Ice chants. And of course, Brody Lee, being the political person that he is, supports that, the whole abolish ICE. And it's like, this is where I don't want to get personal, but everybody knows that he has a kid and he has a wife. And it's like, they're female. They're women. Why would you not want to protect them as a man against people that you don't know? And even if like you're cool within the community that you build wherever you live, there's always a chance that something bad is going to happen, even if it's like a small chance. Why would you want to take that chance by accepting that the border is open for the last 4 years from the previous administration? Like, why would you want to accept that as like, oh my God, that person is illegal here. Let's, give them everything that they want, and hopefully, nobody dies. But as we've seen, people have died. Women have died. Kids have went missing. But no, the wrestling community wants to acknowledge allegations that have nothing to do with them, rather than trying to acknowledge and bring to light of like, hey, ICE saves people. ICE, you don't have to agree with the tactics. And someone made a really good video about, the stupid idea of how they would want ICE to act, because no matter how many times you tell people or ask them about, how do you want ICE to approach this? Nobody has a really good answer. So somebody came up with a scenario of like, do you want ICE to like give them phone calls and be like, hi, this is ICE agent, whatever, number, whatever. And we're calling to let you know that we're coming to get you. So please pack your bags, or, send them an email that says, as per my last email, such and such, it has this out, blah, blah, blah. We know where you live. Please cooperate. Please do everything right. Don't give us a hard time. We're here to talk to you. You know, we're here to offer you help. Do you actually think like criminals are going to respond to being nice? This isn't like gentle parenting. It really isn't. It's not like gentle parenting, but everyone makes it seem as if it is gentle parenting for people who commit crimes and continue to commit crimes and don't change their way because what they know in a different country, they're going to bring it over here. And that's why we have pushback. I have no problem if somebody wants to assimilate into American culture, American life, and follow the rules that we have since everyone else is following the rules. But then we find out that people are not following the rules and it makes other people upset because it's like you're told to be the good person all the time, but then other people get away with a bunch of shit. So, you know, it's one of those. But it's like, why would you want the danger? Even if like it may not happen to you, you never know, but it's going to happen to other people around you. But why would you want the danger to come into the community that you built together with other people just to disrupt that and still say abolish ICE when they keep women safe, drugs off the streets? You know, it's really sad to see people come out of the clinics in New York City and, you know, they're still shooting up. They're still, you know, taking drugs. They're still falling over without falling over. And you guys think that that's okay to have within a city for kids to see this, for adults to see this, for people to see this. And then you wonder why people are not as, I guess, compassionate rather than empathy because you can't really empathize with that because you're not going through that. But like you wonder why people are not compassionate to those that are addicted to drugs when you see them on your own streets. And that's because people want to live in their bubble to be like, the world is good. And then half of that is the world is bad because the media tells me it's bad. So there's two different like bubbles within their minds of everything is good and then media tells me everything is bad. So I'm going to go on the emotional side of everything is bad. If you're just tuning in, I'm just talking about things that are affecting wrestling now, which is the whole abolish ICE thing from AEW, because AEW doesn't know when to tell their wrestlers, no, you cannot do this. I do think we need to start telling people no a lot more just for their safety, just for their state of mind, and let them go cry it out in a room somewhere because that's how you get your emotions out and then you could probably be reasoned with. It's really sad that as much as I talk about this and talk openly about it and I have Discord notes is for more societal issues that's not wrestling related, but because this affects wrestling, I talk about it. The same thing with woke American woke ideology entering into the commentary for New Japan Pro Wrestling. You know, I talk about that too because it's like you don't introduce that stuff to Japan. Like you don't try to be like, oh, the women are sort of more marginalized. And, you know, when I say the women wrestlers, I mean for like Stardom. New Japan Pro Wrestling does not have a women's roster at all. So it's not like, you know, here in America where like WWE has both men and women on their roster. AEW has both men and women on their roster. Japan is more like men, women, separated. That's it. So, you know, stuff like that starts seeking in, and it's like wrestling is that escapism for all of us. But I still think that bold messages like abolish ICE because Brody Lee doesn't understand the world that he lives in should not be like like front and center. Should not do that. And then states are so brainwashed to be chanting that in the arena and the venue, and it's like, stop trying to be activists when you're going to a wrestling event to support the wrestlers and you want to go and escape, you know, whatever it is that you're dealing with. That's why wrestling is such a really interesting man-made event, because we created that shit. And so You go there to have a good time. You go there to basically enjoy yourself. Why do you want to make stuff political for the sake of I have to? Well, no, you guys have to, not me. That the person going has to be an activist. Like, most of the time when people do that, they may not feel as important as they think that they are in their own life. So they have to go and attach themselves to a cause that they don't understand in order to feel important, because they haven't accepted themselves and they haven't accepted their purpose and stuff. And usually some other content creator or streamer will be like, go find God, go find Jesus. You could do that if you want to, but I would say that the world doesn't need any more brainwashed sheep. The world needs a lot more people who are productive, a lot more people who can become compassionate towards things, people who can have really good communication skills without trying to manipulate the situation and make sure that what they are talking about and what they're, trying to bring together as unity is doing a service for everybody, a value for everybody, rather than trying to go attach themselves to a cause that they don't understand 100%. And I think that's the whole case. And that's like the whole entire thing surrounding wrestling fans that want to hijack the show. I do agree that if you do buy a ticket to a wrestling event, whether that's for the indies or whether that's for WWE or that's for AEW, MOW, like a big name promotion, I do agree that if you buy a ticket, you should be able to chant whatever you want, but within reason. It can't just be like F ice all the time, because that's a very bold statement. And I'm thinking you're going to be hijacking the show. Why are you trying to hijack the show when the show has nothing to do with ice? When the show has nothing to do with political stuff. But this is AEW, and AEW allows wrestlers to do whatever the fuck they want. And then this is the mess that they get in. And their coverage for like at least maybe a week and a half was just so fucking annoying. The same way with the whole Marty Scurll situation. So fucking annoying that everybody in the wrestling community wants to have a purity contest, wants to have a dick measuring contest, because it's like, why do you guys get off on this shit? Like, there's other things to talk about. There's other stuff to basically create within the wrestling community, rather than focusing on like these trivial things just because the world may be in a chaotic state or not, depending on like what you want to look at. You know, we could have content creators talking about wrestling in Canada, wrestling in Germany, wrestling in Australia, shining a light on the indies, all that kind of stuff. But we are so hyper focused on abolish ICE, when ICE gets the murderers out of communities. Even though the communities are, already bad, the murderers and the illegals make it 10 times worse in those communities. But, it is what it is. And then people complaining about if Brody Lee, I'm so sorry. Brody King, his reasoning for not being on Dynamite, and then Warner Brothers had to apparently debunk all of that. So, people basically do damage control within the wrestling community, and they do damage control in like almost every fandom. But now it's sort of like make or break, because what's going to happen now? Who knows? Should someone talk to Brody Kane about why ICE is important? Yeah, because that conversation needs to be had. And, like I said earlier, that you can't go to a criminal and be like, hey, buddy, listen, I need to see your papers, could you cooperate with me? Like, you can't gentle parent a criminal. You can't gentle parent like anybody that's going to show force that could be life threatening. So, I don't understand why my mutuals over at X basically don't understand that. It is what it is. Um, Also, very randomly, I may make this into a thing if I were to like do a little bit more research, but I did do research into looking at what exactly is a human right, what constitutes as a human right. And I realized that nothing nothing really constitutes as a human right. Because the human rights like organization was made by the UN after World War II, and when you read it, it is so vague, so vague. It's not even like if I were to present to you like the Bill of Rights, or for example, since this is a wrestling stream, Tanahashi did his like 10-point plan, and I could point to you like number one is this, number two is this, number three is this. When we talk about human rights and when people are advocates for human rights, that's like the biggest waste of time that I have ever noticed. And it's kind of funny that now people's eyes are starting to open up about that. Um, just a little thought, just a little food for thought that, I don't really understand. Human rights are just so vague of like, you have your freedom of expression, your freedom to life. We don't get tortured. And, we have a lot of other freedoms, but it's just so vague that I'm like, what exactly, what exactly are we trying to fight for? Unless you want to go statewide, and then like in the states you have different rights, but collectively when they're like, oh, I'm a human rights activist, it goes according to what the UN created after World War II. But it's so vague that I'm like, okay, so what is a right, you know um but why is my phone uh when people end up texting you while you're live streaming? um but yes, I do not think that the AEW situation is going to do anything for them in a very good way. And I also think that, yeah, somebody needs to talk to Brody Lee. Also, if you're one of those fans that are going to wear like a statement shirt, reconsider that, just because while it is your right to have freedom of expression, any venue can deny you entry for that because they do not want a problem to be caused. They really don't. And it's not like trying to be like, oh, you can't come in, sir, just because of whatever victim mentality you want to put there. It's mainly that, you know, it's affecting the other customers in a way. Obviously, they can't like kick out, or I mean, they could kick out everybody that they see it with, but some are going to slip through the cracks where basically they can have a normal shirt and then all of a sudden, head to the bathroom to change their clothes. And now they have like a really huge, big ass statement about it, and that's how they could slip through the cracks. So yeah, don't wear anything that's like can cause problems. Like, I don't understand, like growing up, like this was instilled, like, don't try to cause problems in settings where like there doesn't need to be any problems. All right, cool. So that's my stance on that. Any questions from the chatters in chat? Anything you guys want to share and stuff? Cool. Why am I'm getting all sorts of notifications. All sorts of notifications, man. Just in case. So today we are going to be talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling. New Japan Pro Wrestling has some free agents, and we're going to get into the Tsuji and Goto drama, even what I had to say about it, because, man, it's just one of those things of like, it feels like you have the old guard versus the like new guard, or the junior guard, whatever you want to call it. But it is what it is. We'll take a look at Tanahashi's 10-point plan as well, because I just feel like, as much as I said during my Wrestle Kingdom review that New Japan Pro Wrestling made the right decisions, and it felt like they were going to go in a new direction. New Japan Pro Wrestling is losing wrestlers like left and right. And when I say losing wrestlers, they're not re-signing with the company, and they're becoming free agents, and they're basically like the lion mark, right? The lion mark that is behind me is a curse and a blessing. Whenever the lion mark is like black and white, obviously it is a bad news. And then when the lion mark is regular color, the red and yellow, it's basically good news and stuff like that. So on my fingers, let's just do a little tiny game of how many people are left in the world. Like, how many people left New Japan Pro Wrestling? Okada, Jay White, Kyle Fletcher, Mark Davis. Even if like these two, Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher, did not have full New Japan contracts, they were still under they were still under New Japan Pro Wrestling as like a pay per appearance. Will Ospreay, Tama, Loa, Hikuleo, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows. We're up to 10. Someone needs to roll out that Gabe Kidd All Elite graphic, because I know that he signed a contract. So Gabe Kidd, Clark Connors. It's not confirmed yet, but eventually David Finlay is gonna go. David Finlay already hugged Gato and also hugged Hiromu. Hiromu's gone. So David Finlay eventually is gonna go, and we're gonna talk about the new beginning card as well too. So David, Hiromu, Evil. So we're up to 15. Who am I missing? I think I got everybody. I am not going to put Hinare on that list. Hinare is a free agent. As far as I know, he's just having conversations with people. That's as far as my knowledge goes. But yeah, those are the people. So 15 people have left New Japan Pro Wrestling. And a majority of it, if you want to use the word majority, have been signed by AEW. Oh, Kevin Knight. New Japan Pro Wrestling lost Kevin Knight as well too. And AEW with Tony Khan and that unlimited checkbook that he just signs away whatever amount that he wants to give these wrestlers, have jumped ship over to AEW. And, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. They have to deal with headaches. They have to deal with being in a clique, being in the in crowd, and trying to get popular and trying this and whatnot, But that did not give New Japan Pro Wrestling enough time to maneuver the wrestlers that they have into certain spots. And it's sad to see, because that's how as much as I love Japan, that's how much that Japan moves very, very slow. And they still hold on to traditions that they should sort of loosen those restraints when it comes to how to make young lions, how to make New Japan stars and whatnot, how to be a businessman. And, as much as I love Tanahashi, and as much as I, would definitely love to work with Tanahashi and New Japan and like everybody else, Tanahashi is not a businessman. Tanahashi is a heartfelt guy first, if that makes sense. So basically, if you are under contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling and you're having conversations with New Japan and New Japan management, and Tanahashi is the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling, you're having conversations and you tell him, hey, listen, these are the things that I want in my contract. I want the title, eventually. This is how maybe we can get there. Maybe I can win the New Japan Cup that's going to be happening next month. Stuff like that. If you tell him like, hey, I want all these things, but then they're all like, hey, we can't do this, we can't do that. Or if you try to maybe ask for a raise or something, you never know. But if you also tell him that you have different aspirations, and you want to go do something else, he will be cheering you on. And he will definitely be like, oh, well, then, go do what you want to go do. And he won't hold it to you. He will always have that door open if you decide to be like, all right, nothing is coming to a compromise and I want to go do other things. And then they decide to leave. And I think that's what happened with Hiromu, that Hiromu probably wanted to finally move up to the heavyweight division. But did they allow him to? No, because Hiromu is one of the best super juniors in New Japan Pro Wrestling alongside El Desperado. But as a wrestler, if that's all you're going to be put in is the junior, the junior division, and you're not going to be doing anything else, then what's the point? You're just wasting time. You're wasting life. You're wasting a career when he could just be in the heavyweight division and challenge for the belt. And I understand that in New Japan, there's a lot of, you got to stick to your weight class. You got to stick to this. You got to stick to that. But if Japan adopted a little bit more wiggle room, they'll have fresher ideas. They'll have fresher moments. They'll have like a lot more fresh things that will get eyes on them. And when I say eyes, I mean people that truly want to watch New Japan Pro Wrestling and not the naysayers on the internet of Twitter or Reddit, where they're constantly shitting on New Japan, where they're constantly shitting on wrestlers that they don't understand just because they saw something, didn't agree with it, and now people just have labels on them. And, it's like, you guys are the worst for doing that. So 15 people have left New Japan Pro Wrestling, and now they're starting to put people into positions, but again, it's going to take a while for New Japan Pro Wrestling to get back on their feet. So we have the New Japan free agents, and I think it's going to be obviously Finley. Henare already put that he's a free agent. Negotiations, man. These talks should have been happening months before, in the previous year, before the contracts came up and whatnot. Some wrestlers would work based on appearance, which is not a bad thing. It's similar to what we say on the indies, between a hot dog and a handshake and whatnot, those kind of deals. But if New Japan really wants to get up there, they're going to have to do something. And making Tsuji their champion, they have a chance to redeem themselves. They have a chance to become the New Japan Pro Wrestling that I enjoyed back in the day. But again, like I said, it is way easier to put Tanahashi as the president, which again, I am like 50-50, right? Because I know that Tanahashi means well in his decisions. I know that Tanahashi, this is probably something new for him. And even though he's not wrestling anymore, he can do the other side of things. But I believe he's just a face. Because I said this on X, that even though I love Tanahashi a lot, it's just one of those things where, as much as we talk about the issues and give constructive criticism, I have given them constructive criticism for the last 5 years, probably going now into 6 years. Ever since they decided, when I say they, I mean New Japan Pro Wrestling, ever since New Japan Pro Wrestling partnered with AEW. And AEW once partnered with TNA, and luckily they decided to cut ties with them because all AEW does is being a leech. And I understand that maybe, Japan obviously gets American news a little bit later than everybody else, but not super, super late. But they are dealing with their own shit over in Japan, and I really hope that Japan finally comes back to being what Japan really is. And then also fixing their internal problems, but that's a whole nother conversation for something else. But I am rooting for Japan to get back to being Japan, because, Japan is awesome. But with the recent debacle of AEW getting covered by mainstream media, all because Brody King is like abolish ICE, that's not a good look when your partner is with New Japan Pro Wrestling and Japan is fed up with all the illegals that are over in Japan. And it's like, your partners want stability over in Japan, the same way that Americans want stability in America. Oh, but no, AEW doesn't give two shits about that, at all. The point being is that if you are partnering with somebody, it's also a reflection of like your business sense and your business models. And I remember that like Tanahashi would say that Tony Khan is a good guy and a cool guy, and that like him, they are invested in dream matches. But the one thing that Tanahashi forgets is that Tony Khan does not have any skin in the game. So he never paid his dues. He never worked at any wrestling promotion. He was given almost everything to him, and including the football team, to be like this analysis guy. But, look how well that's going for AEW's ratings. So, just because you connected with Tony Khan on the level of making dream matches and, loving pro wrestling, or I don't know, should I do pro wrestling? No. For those of you that are going to probably be listening on the audio, I did air quotes, but just because you connected with him on a wrestling basis, on a wrestling love waveform, does not mean that he understands the business. Because obviously he doesn't. He has the inmates running the asylum. He has people, boldly speaking in your face, just political beliefs, when it's like, I just want to watch you wrestle, man. Like, I want you to do a body slam. I want you to, get the belt and be like, hey, we're going to take this by storm or whatever, be a character. Sometimes most wrestlers don't know how to be a character. So what they do is that the personality that they have, they just go 0 to 100 without trying to put a buffer, so that way there could be a character in there. But no, they're like, oh, this is my personality, so you rather like it or you don't like it. But yeah, so Tanahashi is a wrestler first and not even a businessman. And I do think that even though we talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW and the partnership and give constructive criticisms and breakdowns and stuff like that, they haven't really been listening. They haven't been listening at all. So Tsuji over here making his BushiRoad comments basically ruffled New Japan wrestlers, ruffled the fans, and even ruffled Kadani a bit. And it's sort of like, I understand that BushiRoad is the one that has the money and is giving the money to the wrestlers and, contract negotiations. And they're like this person over here, while you have all the New Japan management over here. But they have a say in it because BushiRoad owns New Japan and also owns, Stardom and whatnot. So they back them up with money. And if you don't know, BushiRoad is very big into the card business, the card playing business and whatnot. So that's where like most of their money comes from. But you also have to look at it from the standpoint of, okay, if the money is coming from the cards, you also have to understand what pro wrestling is about. And these guys are putting their bodies on the line every single time for the fans. And eventually, if the fans are not feeling it anymore, the fans are going to be voting with their wallets to not go to a New Japan show. And to my knowledge, I still think from what I've watched and read and talked with, that I think they still get paid like once a month as like a salary. And then they have to figure out like all their budgets and, what they're going to pay for, and then spend the extra money on entertainment. So eventually the customers that go watch New Japan Pro Wrestling or go watch any kind of entertainment will eventually vote with their wallet to be like, hey, I'm not gonna go to a New Japan show this month, but maybe in like 3 months when they return, I could go to the next one. And if BushiRoad doesn't understand that, then this is why New Japan Pro Wrestling is in the state that is in. It's management, it's BushiRoad, it's a combination of things that nobody wants to acknowledge, because the moment you acknowledge it, you're going to have to try to find a way to fix it. And then people online are going to get stupid. And we don't want people online to get stupid at all. Let me um let me bring up something first. With that being said, anybody out there that is watching, comment, questions, anything like that, if you want to say what's up, I want to bring up the Tanahashi's 10-point plan. So that's what I want to do. And I want to go over it cuz it's been a long time. It's been a long time. Uh, I'm going to make me smaller if I can. I don't even know where to put myself. Okay, let me just put myself there. Um, Let me do that instead. Um, by the way, if you guys don't know, I have my wrestling newsletter, which is the Square Circle Podcast, as you can see there. Um, I upload my podcast, the Square Circle Podcast episodes, onto the newsletter and then also onto Spotify, where it goes everywhere else. But I have been building a readership over at Substack, marieshadows.substack.com, for any and all free signups. All right, so let's go over this, right? Oh, and by the way, if you guys want to know the stats, 84 total views, 46 podcast downloads for this particular podcast episode that we're going to go over. And the open rate, if you want to know, is 42.55%. But this was published June 5th, 2024. And that's just the overall. Yeah, that's just overall for Substack. Um, okay, let's go over this. We're not going to listen to the podcast episode, obviously, but, this was the thumbnail that I did because this is Kadani right here. This is Tony Khan. This is not my champion, never my champion, Jon Moxley, when he won the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title. And it just felt like, Tony Khan doing whatever the fuck he wants. Tanahashi and Tony Khan again. You could also subscribe and join the chat. I really don't have the chat anymore for Substack, but it is what it is. So, Tanahashi's 10-point plan is... Oh, so these are the statements. I'm sorry, these are not the plan. Tanahashi said back in 2024, talent discovery and development. Young talent should wrestle more in high-level sports. G1 spots are still earned. All wrestlers need to try their best to impress. New Japan Pro Wrestling wants the best wrestlers in their early 20s. There's this continuous conversation. Hey, Rob, what's up? Thank you for the happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's today. Happy Valentine's to you too, man. Thank you for the happy Valentine's. Appreciate it. So I was gonna say, also thank you for being here and in the chat. Over in on X, there's a lot of conversations about wrestlers in like their late 40s or even their 40s or late 30s, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's so old for a champion." WWE doesn't make new champions, new stars, younger stars, and sometimes there's an argument to be made about what does it really mean if like a wrestler is in their 40s and they're a champion or whatnot. But it still goes back to the same basis of you got to sell tickets, you got to sell merch, you got to be over with the crowd. There's a lot of factors that go into it, and there's a lot of merit that goes into it. Now, I do agree that sometimes there is like favoritism. I totally get that. However, would you want your company that you're trying to not ever do a, chapter 11 or a bankruptcy? Like, do you not want your company to succeed and make the most money your company has ever had? Because that money tends to trickle down to other people as well, depending on like how well the marketing is, depending on how well you do things. Like, everything is a system and everything is an ecosystem. And if you listen to the Twitter people, all they're ever going to want are like 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds to win championship titles that they have no business winning championship titles yet. Everything is a ladder. Sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's medium speed, sometimes it's like right place, right time. Sometimes you make the right decision to give them the belt. Sometimes you hot shot people, but history tends to tell you that not every single wrestler is ready, and not every single person is meant to be a wrestler. So, it's kind of funny that in one of the statements is that New Japan wants the best wrestlers, in their early 20s, which is, good or bad. However, are they going to go into the dojo system? Because I have talked about the dojo system before, where like the dojo system takes too long to create a superstar for New Japan Pro Wrestling. It takes way too long for that to happen. And it's only because, again, Japan, as much as I love Japan tends to hold on to those traditions that they have, and they don't let it go. If you guys don't know, especially on Rumble, the G1 is a big-ass tournament for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that's their bread and butter, and that's to see who is the best. The G1 is basically like the G1 Climax. It's a single elimination tournament to find out who's the best. That person can get the opportunity to fight for the world title or the junior heavyweight title, or maybe a combination of like, well, not really a combination, but a pick of their own, whatever they want to do. And young talent should wrestle more in high level spots, which is true. But again, timing is everything. Not all young talent is ready for that high level spot. Number 2 is evaluating the value of championships. New Japan. My brain wants to say, get rid of all the titles except for the heavyweight title and the global title. Make all new tournaments for all new titles with all new lineages. Get rid of that woke bullshit SJW of a belt, the IWGP Women's Heavyweight Championship title. Get rid of that fucking belt, because the people back in 2020 to like maybe 2022, all of those women who were vocal about it on X have all moved over to Blue Sky, have all moved over to Threads, and they don't give two shits about women's wrestling. They never gave a shit about Stardom. They never gave a shit about, wanting to put people into a light. They wanted to just give it to them because they're women. That's it. Now, the Stardom women are really good wrestlers and athletes because, again, they're also trained by the men and they're trained by themselves. But to want to go that hard to be like, hey, you got to give them a belt because here in America, I'm going to insert my American thoughts, and we have women doing intergender wrestling, and we have, women in the promotions and blah, blah, blah. So New Japan Pro Wrestling, you guys have to abide by our standard and blah, 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 because it's democracy. You guys had New Japan make a fucking belt that no one cares about, that no one knows about. And even though there is one dude that I cannot remember his name, that talks about Stardom, that talks about the IWGP Women's Championship, that talks about, what is it? The red belt, the white belt, over at Stardom, God bless him, man, because to try to keep up with all of that is one of those things of like, does it really matter? Most people who cry on the internet do it for virtual singling points, and New Japan Pro Wrestling gave into that because, believe it or not, woke has also infiltrated Japan as well. And it's like, you guys got to get that shit out of there, because we should all be together in unison of, if you are contributing, if you are helping out, if like it's based on merit and whatnot, and not based on feelings. So that way somebody could get a participation trophy. And that's how it feels so many years later for having the IWGP Women's Championship title. It's like a participation trophy. The championship titles are not participation trophies within the world of wrestling. They shouldn't be treated as participation trophies. There should be a clear vision as to what it means to be the heavyweight world champion, or the world heavyweight champion. Sorry. There should be a vision for what it means to be the world heavyweight champion. There should be a vision for being the global heavyweight champion. There should be a vision for what it means to be a tag team in today's wrestling scene. There should be a vision for the never openweight championship titles, which, by the way, I created a whole entire video explaining all of New Japan Pro Wrestling's title and what they mean and the factions and like all this kind of shit, which, you guys should go take a look at, and maybe I'll upload it to Rumble so that way you guys can watch it on Rumble. But also get rid of the never openweight championship titles. Because in 2026, nobody embodies the fucking acronym of the never openweight title. The never openweight title was created, when did I say it? Maybe like 2011, 2012. It was a different time where the acronym made sense. And I know I have it somewhere in my Rumble. But get rid of the never openweight championship titles too, man. Get rid of that shit. Anyway, let me keep going. Roles of the championships will now be more defined. You guys haven't done shit. Tsuji is the only one that has defined the global and the heavyweight championship titles, but all the rest of them, the roles are not defined. Anybody could win the never openweight 6-man titles, which is a trios championship title, and then also the single one. But those titles get tossed like hot potato between Bishamon, which is Goto and Yoshihashi, along with Bolton Oleg and House of Torture. So like, what, like, the roles are not being defined. I don't even know who the tag. Oh wait, no, I do know who the tag team is. It's the Knockout Bros. It's Yuto, Ice, and Oscar. You know, at least they make it like, oh, we're a tag team. This is tag team wrestling. Strong championship titles will be American exclusive. Yeah, but nobody knows anymore because you guys decided to get rid of New Japan Strong. And maybe you guys got rid of it because it was an expense, but you guys need to spare no expense, aka Jurassic Park. But you guys should not be, you know, be like, oh my God, we got to spare the expense. No, New Japan Strong helped create more wrestlers, more story, and it was a really good show. Because at least people got another promotion to go to show off what they can do. And then that New Japan Strong weekly programming that was created because of COVID, because they wanted to do something to bring joy to people in a dark time. And they made New Japan Strong, and we fell in love with like the wrestlers that couldn't go over to Japan. And if they would have kept it, Japan would not be in the problem that they're currently in. And then maybe we would not have an AEW partnership, because New Japan Strong could have been the new way to look at the dojo system for Japan itself. You know, we could have had that to where New Japan Strong would develop the people who go to the academy over in Cali and become a wrestler and get to wrestle on New Japan Strong, and then eventually make their way to Japan to be on the Japan shows and have and market New Japan Strong to the Japanese fans as like, hey, these are the up and coming guys. We will ship them over at a later date, but here are their matches. Let's talk about it, you know. And hold like little mini interviews outside the venues over in Japan and be like, hey, have you signed up to NJPW World? What do you like about NJPW World? What wrestlers are you looking forward to today? What merchandise did you buy? There's nobody doing interviews. You know, I wish I could do that. I could do that more. Just ask fans like, hey, who are you here for? Who's this? Who's that? To sort of gauge like where they're going with it. But like New Japan doesn't do that. But as I say that, watch them implemented with the commentary team that they have. I'm just saying. 13 championships are difficult to follow, even for the hardcore New Japan fan like me. And this is why, because of that statement, I created a video talking about all 13 fucking championship titles. And I'm like, damn, I never knew you had 13 championship titles in your promotion, New Japan. Like, what are we doing? Now, number 3, eliminating outside interference. Again, New Japan Pro Wrestling caved into the fans talking online about the interference. Now that Evil is no longer with New Japan Pro Wrestling, I wonder, you know, what they're going to do now, because are they still going to have shenanigans? Probably, but not as impactful as when Evil was around. So this was mainly introduced for House of Torture. And then number 4, increasing the prominence and status of Hontai. It is Hontai, not hentai, so please don't do that in the comments. Don't try to be stupid with it. Hontai is the big unit group of New Japan Pro Wrestling, the biggest faction within New Japan Pro Wrestling. Nobody knows all the members, and not all the members wrestle, so we'll leave it at that. Strengthening ties with Stardom. Stardom is the sister promotion to New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then it got owned by New Japan Pro Wrestling. It becomes a subsidiary. That happened in July of 2024. I would like another crossover, of Stardom and New Japan Pro Wrestling. That would be great. Strengthening ties with AEW. You guys are delusional. You guys need to cut ties with AEW and strengthen the ties with Major League Wrestling, because at least Major League Wrestling treats New Japan Pro wrestlers better than AEW. Trust me, I have a lot of experience on that. Number 7, improving the live fan experiences, meaning different prices, picking seats, female only sections, special food menus, and more. None of that fucking shit happened. I don't see any female only sections. Maybe there is, and they haven't like really said anything about it. I cannot speak to the special food menus, and I can't speak to the picking seats, different prices. I don't know, but it just seems like it hasn't happened. Number 8, improving New Japan World. It was clunky. It's still clunky. Improved treatment of personal information. Plans to keep personal data safe going forward by training employees. They had a data breach, and it was done on accident by one of their employees, where they, I think the story was that they accidentally forgot, one of the dongles, one of the USB little things. Yeah, they forgot it. It was an accident. So personal data could be leaked like that. And then NJPW sponsors. Thanking the sponsors, because a very famous sponsor, which I don't remember their name, is no longer sponsoring New Japan Pro Wrestling. And when that happens, I was like, oh shit, things are about to get serious. So that was that. Um, oh, I think that was his 10-point plan. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah. We went through his 10-point plan. Those are the statements. Probably number 1 happened. Number 2 slightly happened. Number 3 happened. Number 4, like, dude, no one. I'm gonna be very, very honest. No one knows uh who is in Hantai and what Hantai really is, man. Like, you have to remember that Americans are watching, and everyone else around the world is watching New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's not just Japanese. It's not just Japanese. It's a combination of a lot of different people from all walks of life that is watching New Japan Pro Wrestling. So that's that. Um, we're gonna switch over to this, and we're going to read this, and I'm gonna give my takes on it, and then I'm gonna find all of my tweets, and then I'm probably going to wrap it up. If you are still here hanging out with me, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I know it's early, it's a Friday, and people are probably working and probably tuned in for their lunch break and stuff like that. But I still appreciate it. The replay will be up no matter what. So yes. Um, let's go take a mini little break, and then when we come back, we will be talking about this and my tweets and whatnot, and then stuff I want to do after this. Okay. And I'm back. So we're going to go through this and I'm going to give my takes and then what I said on social media about it. Because as much as, there two things could be right, there's still a lot of like, you got to be a little bit more open minded when it comes to the things that Tsuji is talking about. And Tsuji sees it. Like, Tsuji is take no prisoners. Like, I legit want to be this dude's friend. Like, because I know that Tsuji will have my back and I'll have his back. And Tsuji will have, like, anyone else's back if, like, they, if they needed him for, like, a situation or whatever. Like, you can see that type of dude. Like, he cares and he'll be there and whatnot. So, awesome. So, let's go through. Let's go through this. Okay, so Champion Yoda Tsuji's direct appeal to the parent company microphone is a stir. It's Hiroki Goto. Complaints and Great Khan's sharp rebuttal caused a storm of controversy on social media, leading to a storm of pros and cons. I surprisingly did not see any of Great Khan's tweets about this. Usually I do, and I usually comment on it, and I do have previous podcast episodes where I am talking about the Great Khan's comments because as much as I enjoy the Great Khan's work in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I think that he's brilliant, I also do think that he plays to both sides. And sometimes he could play to one side even more. And I sometimes think that he could get a little lazy, depending on what's happening. But overall, like, even with that, I would want the Great Khan on my team. I would want the Great Khan on my team. Anyway, let's go through this. It was a night that symbolized the turbulence of New Japan Pro Wrestling. On February 11th, the main event of the new beginning in Osaka was held at the Osaka Prefectural Gymnasium. IWGP Heavyweight Champion Yota Tsuji successfully defended his first title against his formidable opponent Jake Lee. In the ring, where the heat did not cool down after the match, what came out of the champion's mouth was a bitter cry for the company and a passionate cheer for Hiromu Takahashi, who was leaving for a new world. That's right. This was in the same event that, even though Tsuji said these comments, we also had Hiromu leaving. February 11th was the last day for Hiromu with the company of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And whatever he's going to do, I'm going to go follow. So this is what Tsuji says. This ring is a place to express your life, which is true. It really is. Because over in Japan, they take pro wrestling seriously. They really do. It's not like here in the US where, like, we know a lot more stuff than what we shouldn't be really knowing about. A lot of stuff behind the scenes and whatnot. All that kind of stuff. The drama, the stupid dirt sheets, the people that lie constantly and whatnot. Like, we shouldn't really be knowing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. But over in Japan, they take that shit seriously. So Yota Tsuji is completely sank. Oh, sorry. Yota Tsuji, who completely sank the challenger, was dragged out by the young lion. Oh. So Tsuji said, "I'll be looking forward to seeing what happens to you after this." And Yota Tsuji re-grabbed the microphone with a serious look. The brunt of this was not directed at the opponent, but at BushiRoad, the parent company to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like I was saying earlier, BushiRoad is in the business of playing cards, and they also are the parent company to New Japan Pro Wrestling, so they basically signed the checks as well. So Tsuji says, to be honest, I may not be saying anything here. I have a responsibility to protect this organization. That's a 100%, dude. You have the responsibility to protect the organization. I know that there are woke wrestling fans, woke liberal wrestling fans who want to be a rebel will go against this. But it's like, you guys never been on a team. You guys are never team players. And you don't understand that while, yes, depending on the corporation and where you're working at could be fucking hell and it can be a drain on you, there are places where when you work with them, you understand that it's the way it is because of how everything was shaped. And not everything has to be perfect or everything has to be aligned, but you know that it's potential in this company and why people keep coming to this company. There's a reason why Americans will go out to Japan and work for New Japan Pro Wrestling Noah, and work for a different crowd, work for a different culture. There's a reason why that happens. And it's not only to try new experiences, but because New Japan Pro Wrestling Noah, Japanese wrestling is touted as one of the best in the wrestling ecosystem that I keep talking about. So yes, he does have a responsibility to protect the organization to the best of his ability because he is a champion. He is a representation of New Japan Pro Wrestling and the standards of what they have. Like, Tsuji is a really good standard company man that I, again, would have on my team if I was putting together a team. So yes, if you guys have a problem with that, that's only because you guys want to be the rebel, but not actually be a rebel. You want to talk about it, but you don't really live it. Tsuji goes on to say, I'm the champion, so I'm going to make up my mind here and now. Oi, BushiRoad. We wrestlers are not cards in a card game. We're fighting for our lives in this ring. Can you tell the weight of this belt? This belt is the determination and the price of life for all the wrestlers who fight here. This ring is a place for us wrestlers to express our lives. Listen, if Tsuji ever needed my vote for something, Tsuji has my vote, man. Tsuji has my vote. That, like, you know, for the past 5 years that I've been talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling, it never dawned on me to even think about BushiRoad. Because I forget that BushiRoad plays a very integral part in New Japan Pro Wrestling and not only in the card playing business. When New Japan Pro Wrestling came out with the game, it wasn't like a card game, it was a mobile game that I was playing, and they totally shut down servers and whatnot. Like, that was my favorite game to play on stream. It was very, very fun. And it was me supporting New Japan Pro Wrestling. So it never dawned on me to not really go after, but critique BushiRoad. And so I guess to an extent, TJP was right about BushiRoad when he brought it up during that whole drama between him and Jeff Cobb, which, by the way, again, I covered that drama and it's in my back catalog of the Square Circle podcast. And I think it's even here on Rumble too. I have it somewhere on Rumble. But yeah, it never dawned on me to talk about BushiRoad and be like, guys, what are you doing? So Tsuji is completely right that the wrestlers in the ring, it's good, bad, and ugly, and unfortunate things can happen. And, you know, BushiRoad doesn't know anything about wrestling. BushiRoad doesn't know the weight of the belt, the weight of everything. So yeah, I'm totally behind Tsuji here. What echoed in the venue were words of pride as a person who cuts his life in the ring and his extraordinary love for the place of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like, I love New Japan too, man. I really do. I love New Japan. I just think that we got to get some stooges out of management for New Japan Pro Wrestling to go boldly to places they've never been to. Okay, I was trying to make a really good Star Trek reference. But fuck everything else after, like, what is it? Everything Discovery and beyond. Fuck that Star Trek. Anyway, Tsuji goes on to say, I like this group. I like New Japan. I do too, Tsuji. I do too. I want to hold up the lion mark proudly. I do too. This belt, this ring, and this New Japan Pro Wrestling that I protect. So that's why please look in the same direction. Let's walk together to make this organization stronger and bigger. Yep. I said the same thing for like 5 years, man. 5 years. You notice the decline of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And it's all thanks to AEW, whether you want to accept it or not, man. It's AEW. Even though people are like, oh my God, how can you blame AEW 100% of the time? New Japan has its faults. New Japan has its faults. New Japan has its bad decisions, but they're not as grave, right? They're not as great either as AEW coming in and being the snakes that they are. Rather than trying to help out their partners to get a TV deal, so that way the boys can get more money, AEW doesn't do shit like that. AEW doesn't work with New Japan Pro Wrestling and Tanahashi and the management to ask the questions of like, hey, how does your distribution work? Hey, how does this work? Hey, let me go talk to some people. Let me go make some calls because you guys are our buddies. But what does AEW do? Put AEW Dynamite and Collision on NJPW World like a leech. And telling and also stopping the Japanese commentary from putting Japanese dub commentary over those shows because I guess the money ran out. Like, I don't know. So I don't even know if the Japanese fans are still getting the AEW Dynamite and Collision on New Japan World because it's only for Japanese customers. So if I decided to get a subscription to New Japan Pro Wrestling again, I would not be able to see the AEW Dynamite or the AEW Collision shows because I am not Japanese. Now, I do know that somebody in the comments, whether that's on the VOD or now, are going to say, oh, well, if you have a VPN, you can watch it. Yeah, I know that. But who really wants to watch AEW in 2026? The point stands is that instead of helping out your partners to get a TV deal in America, to convince a channel in America other than Access TV, because Access TV had New Japan Pro Wrestling, but nothing was really being done for marketing wise to get them in front of more viewers so that way they could get more ratings and stay on it and whatnot. But AEW didn't do that. Tony Khan didn't do that. And I wonder why. But Tony Khan would ask for space on New Japan World, their network, which is very similar to the WWE network, but Tony Khan would ask for space on New Japan World to showcase AEW Dynamite and Collision to the Japanese audience. And whenever AEW would do the crossovers with New Japan Pro Wrestling, the fans wouldn't give two shits about AEW. So that tells you that not only is AEW a leech in the wrestling business to take up space on the NJPW World website, but no Japanese fan was watching AEW because nobody was reacting to the AEW wrestlers that came over and did the horrible Wrestle Dynasty in Japan at the Tokyo Dome that only sold 24,000 tickets. And that was the day that Chris Charlton got suspended. And that was the day that my whole entire brand and content, blew up because I was like, hey, let's go debunk Uncle Dave here about this whole fucking suspension shit. And that was like the #1 podcast that I ever did. Podcast episode, I should say. But it still stands that if New Japan wants to get bigger and better, they also have to cater to an American audience. And this is why I'm going to go back to, if New Japan Pro Wrestling brings back New Japan Strong, I will gladly oversee everything. I will gladly make sure that we have everything under control, to the best of our ability, and run New Japan Strong. So that way we can make the pitch to be like, yo, you need this on cable television. More wrestling is good wrestling. for the ecosystem, for the economy of, money coming in, money going out. Like, it's a win-win for everybody. It's a win-win for the women. It's a win-win for the boys. It's a win-win to have New Japan strong. And I get it that obviously it's Japan, and Japan should be catering to Japanese audiences. I totally get that. But when you open up the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling, when you open up the world of Pro Wrestling Noah, when you open up the world of Japanese wrestling to Americans now, where we have a lot more easier access to watch Japanese wrestling, and it's not through tape trading, you have to think about the American wallet as well, because they're spending money. We will get to it in a little bit, but I wanted to just quickly remind people that February 28th, New Japan Pro Wrestling, the company that we're talking about for the last hour and like 40 minutes, is coming over to New Jersey. And I'm still like, how the fuck did they book New Jersey? They're coming over to New Jersey. We're going to go over the card in a little bit. But it still stands that there's a market for Japanese wrestling in America, even though it may not make the big bucks like WWE, the mainstream bucks like WWE. It may not make that kind of money, but there's still a demand. There's still a market for it. But if you still have the same stooges that are running management, that are running the American side of things, New Japan Pro Wrestling is not going to break through as they should. That's why I say that they have a better chance at breaking through by strengthening their ties with Major League Wrestling, MLW, rather than AEW. AEW are fucking leeches when it comes to trying to play nice. Well, they pretend to play nice with my air quotes, but they take everything. And even if like they decided to give back or collab again or send some of the former New Japan stars back to New Japan Pro Wrestling, it's not going to make a difference. For example, Callum Newman should have hit Will Ospreay with the chair and told Will Ospreay to get the fuck out of New Japan and to not come back into the United Empire. Why do you need somebody who left the United Empire in shambles and was like, hey guys, take care of the new kid because I gotta go to AEW? Why the fuck would you want him to come back into the group? Because you don't want to offend nobody? Because you don't want to offend him? No, get him the fuck out. He doesn't belong in the United Empire anymore. He let that shit fall. Before him, it was Kyle Fletcher going over to AEW, not telling nobody in the group chat, and Mark Davis getting hurt and needing surgery, and like, who's going to pay for it? Here comes Tony Khan, which was a very, very good thing to do. But it still stands that the dominoes were falling for the United Empire, and the United Empire could have taken over New Japan Pro Wrestling. They could have taken over, the indies as well. Even if New Japan was not going to sign them anytime soon, you still have all of these connections to go to different types of companies and bring that along and try to be like, hey, let's do a collaboration. But no, as much as I love wrestling and this is my passion, people are selfish. Okay? People are selfish. People are individualistic, and they want the money for themselves. And I totally get it, because everything in the world is like an exchange of money and stuff like that. But just imagine if like Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis, from like what we know, right? From what we know, and this is me just speaking from what we know. Imagine if New Japan was like, hey, listen, we still want you on a handshake deal. A hot dog and a handshake. That's what we're going to call it, because that's what we say on the indies. That's when you don't have a contract. But you do a pay per appearance, and, you get paid. You'll get paid by New Japan on the indies. You got to fight tooth and nail for like a payment, even for like $20 fucking dollars. Anyway, imagine if they were like, all right, you know what? We're going to continue to do this. We work really, really hard. We are going to continue the indie circuit in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Why not, right? Go over to different types of audiences, bring with you the United Empire name, make sure you get everything cleared. And then if you're going to like All Japan Pro Wrestling, which is Tajiry's promotion, you know, you work out a deal. You work out a deal, a negotiation of like, oh, we're going to collaborate with New Japan Pro Wrestling. When they get introduced to the ring, they're going to be Aussie Open of the United Empire, and they go over and they wrestle in front of a different audience. They take the money of what they can when they do that little tour or whatnot. Like, that's how you build a reputation. So that way, BushiRoad and New Japan are like, okay, we could sign them to a contract. Instead of jumping over to America, the first chance someone's dangling a freaking money bag in front of your face. Now, it doesn't matter how you feel about if the whole money situation, right? Because you guys might hear that and think that I'm cruel, that I don't want someone to get paid their worth. I do want wrestlers to get paid, but when wrestlers happen to get overpaid, it doesn't have a return on investment for the company, because you have to remember that companies need a return on investment so they don't file for Chapter 11 and you're out of a job. So it is kind of a gray area when it comes to talking about business, when it comes to talking about promotions and whatnot, and when it comes to talking about like how everything falls into place. Of course, a wrestler should get paid their worth, but what are they bringing to the company to make sure that their worth is the return on investment? So if you give a wrestler $1 million annually, that better be making up for all, like maybe royalties are included, merchandise, ticket sales, and even sponsorships from like other places that are like, hey, I want to book your wrestler for my commercial. Here's money. That money gets towards the total added of the $1 million reinvested into the company. Because again, everything trickles down within a company. When everybody gets paid, everyone is happy, and that's what you want. You can't just be fucking selfish and be like, oh, you know, it's all about me. It's all about my money in my pockets. That's great. It should be about your money, your pockets, but it should also be about the rest of the boys. It should also be about the rest of the people that work behind the scenes to make you look like $1 million. You know, that's why it's like Japan created like an Avengers task force. That's what's coming to my head. They created a round table of all the other wrestling promotions to help each other out. So why you guys are not doing more collaborations with each other? New Japan is in that, Noah is in that, All Japan is in that, and all the little tiny wrestling promotions, even the all-women wrestling promotions are in that little round table. And they made it after the pandemic to help each other because they were all losing money and everybody was losing money at that time. But they created it to help each other. So why are you guys not collaborating more? That's another way to take New Japan Pro Wrestling to better heights, to newer heights, is by collaborating with Pro Wrestling Noah, even if Pro Wrestling Noah has a partnership with WWE right now, and that's fantastic. But, you know, it's like, fuck what the internet says, fuck Tony Khan's feelings, and fuck Uncle Dave for, you know, sometimes reporting that, oh, because there's this partnership between AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling can't really do anything because they don't want to upset their partners. And when you say that kind of stuff and put that out into the internet, even though I'm probably paraphrasing, but that's the idea behind it, you make people think that New Japan can't do anything. But look what they did. They took the belt off of Konosuke, put it on Tsuji. Tsuji is like, hey, BushiRoad, we're wrestlers. We're not, you know, card players, you know. Stop having us trying to negotiate with you guys about contracts and money and stuff like that. Like, you know, I would love to know how well the card business is doing over there and how well BushiRoad is doing over there. Because it's like, how can you not give them money to make sure that the wrestlers stay where they're staying at, you know? So that way you don't have 15 people leaving the company and one person who's a free agent, Hinare, being like, "Hey guys, what you gonna offer me, man? Like here, like I'm here for negotiations." So again, I'm fully behind Tsuji on him saying this. I'm fully behind them trying to find something to elevate New Japan Pro Wrestling. And maybe I should just send this live stream over to New Japan and be like, I'm here when you need me for consultations, to make New Japan better, because New Japan has a different way of storytelling when it comes to pro wrestling. New Japan storytelling, when it is really, really good, it's on a whole nother level than what we see in America, and it's really a fresh way of looking at it. That's why I enjoy pro wrestling as a whole. AEW, AEW is AEW. We're gonna put them like over in a box, but like WWE does their own kind of storytelling. New Japan does their own kind of storytelling. Pro Wrestling Noah does their own kind of storytelling. MOW as well, but they all have something that somebody can watch and like and appreciate while also giving constructive criticism. But, the internet thinks that giving constructive criticism is all negative and negativity, and it's not. You guys just don't want to listen. That's the main problem. You guys do not want to listen. And you guys think that just because you see a clip does not mean that someone is always yelling. Okay. Let's continue to read this. Furthermore, Yoda Tsuji said to his fans and all wrestlers, this is where everyone got up in arms. I won't make the future from now on. Everyone here today and all the wrestlers of New Japan Pro Wrestling will work together to create this New Japan Pro Wrestling. Be prepared. Is that okay? He shouted and received a loud cheer from the venue. Tsuji takes it upon himself to be the self-appointed leader, which I like. But then also I'm like, yo, slow down for a bit, because even though Tsuji with now Shingo, and Bullet Club, which, yes, Bullet Club is officially dead. It breaks my heart. For Tsuji to automatically say that we are Unbound Code now, but to find out the story behind it, that they all agreed upon calling it that, and Bullet Club going their separate ways, then yeah. It's a good and bad thing that Tsuji does, but I like the fact that Tsuji can be able to say, listen, this is what we're going to do. This is the plan. We're going to go for it. Like, I love that kind of shit, because that's what a real man does. And that's how a real man takes charge, by being that leader that someone else doesn't want to be. And that's the kind of leadership that the United Empire needed for them not to fucking fall apart. So this is why, like, I love Tsuji and I want to be his friend. I seriously, seriously, seriously want to be his friend. However, Goto has some complaints. This is what Goto has said. By the way, this is Goto right here. Like, I love Goto. I respect Goto. But, this is his responses. A lot of fans on social media, including myself, was like, yeah, bro, you said it right, man. You said it well. And they definitely want this change. They really do, because we have been complaining and also constructive criticism for so many years for New Japan Pro Wrestling to change, and they're not changing. So I guess we gotta, start talking to BushiRoad and be like, yo, BushiRoad, like, please start changing. Okay, so Goto says it's not something that a person who should close the end should say in the ring, which to an extent he's right, but at the same time, if you have the mic, you can say whatever you want. In New Japan Pro Wrestling, when you are the main event and you win, you're closing out the show and you're saying a couple words or whatever, and you can say whatever you want. The place and the timing of his remarks, and this sparked a debate. Fans who agreed with Goto's opinion said It's a pity that it was a microphone in the ring, not a media coverage. It doesn't really need to be a media coverage, because if it's a media coverage, again, nothing is gonna fucking happen. What I want to see is an ideological struggle between professional wrestlers, not a struggle with the company. The company needs to change in order for you to see that ideological struggle between the professional wrestlers. The company has to fix the damages done by bad management, AEW, and just all around other little stuff that gets swept under the rug and never get fixed. So that stuff needs to be fixed before we can see the struggle between professional wrestlers. I want to see the struggle between professional wrestlers, and what they mean is having a story, the characters they're fighting, they're fighting for a championship title or not for a championship title, and I want to see that. But first, this company has to fix all that shit. The excitement of the fierce battle has been halved. Not really, bro. Like, come on. I'm worried that it's a situation where I have to say it in public. There were voices of concern about business remarks in the ring. In addition, there were voices expressing their expectations for Goto, saying Mr. Goto is the only one who is suitable for IWGP anymore. What? I mean, listen, if no one is going to talk about it, no one's going to know, right? And sometimes the silence can definitely hurt New Japan Pro Wrestling more. I'm always going to speak out on stuff that's like, not taken care of. Like, we should be taking care of this stuff. We should be. On the other hand, there are many fans who defended Tsuji. I am one of them. I defended Tsuji because there's no way, there's no way that Goto and everybody else is going to try to dissuade Tsuji from, not speaking his mind. Let that man speak his mind. Pro wrestling is interesting because you speak in the ring. It doesn't matter if you tighten it up or not. It's a statement that can only be said because Tsuji is under the guidance of Naito. Oh my God, Naito. I fucked up his name. No. I think Tsuji was outspoken even before he met Naito, and Naito is very outspoken. Like, no. Please tell me directly, not X. Veterans, including Mr. Goto, should not have to make this statement to young people behind the scenes. Sometimes you need to. Sometimes you need to use your voice if you have the opportunity to do it. And now I do know that maybe some people will call me a hypocrite or whatever because, the things that I've said that, there's a time and place for everything. Especially this goes like back to when WWE was doing the media scrums, and people will try to be journalists and ask the stupid ass questions that have nothing to do with them. Like, anything that pertains to the Janelle Grant case or whatever, them trying to get like sound bites. Again, there's a place and time for everything when you ask questions, when you use your platform, when you use this or that, or just recently with the whole fucking abolish ICE fucking shit. Like, again, there's a place and time for everything. But the stuff that's happening behind the scenes for New Japan Pro Wrestling is one where you speak up on whether you have the mic in the ring for the main event or you don't, or you do a backstage comments, or you do a media coverage. For way too long, New Japan Pro Wrestling has been harboring these bad choices, bad decisions that need to be fixed. And Tsuji has the fucking balls to call it out and call out BushiRoad directly. And that's a very big thing. And he wants change. We all want change. And, we did this with AEW where myself and other people will call out AEW for their stuff. But the mob dragged us. And no, I never apologized to the mob. The mob needs to apologize to me because we're not really talking about Forbidden Door. And who said that, oh, you guys are not going to remember the matches after the first Forbidden Door? And look what happened. You guys owe me an apology from all my haters. I'm available on Rumble if you want to come and apologize to me because I did, hide you guys from my YouTube because you guys are being fucking stupid. Anyway, you guys owe me an apology. But yeah, the mob dragged us for like so many years of us speaking out on the mistreatment of wrestlers over in AEW, how wrestlers will still wrestle with a concussion, how, Matt Hardy falling off of the machine thing and like hitting his head on the concrete by getting speared by Sammy Guevara. Like, you guys were like, no, that's not true. He's okay, blah, blah, blah. You guys dragged us for a bunch of shit that we called out for AEW. And what AEW has done all along is swept these, the dirty laundry underneath the rug. The dirt sheets don't help. None of that helps. So when you're carrying baggage and when you're carrying visible fatigue of, of all this stuff comes to the surface and you got to talk about it, because if you let it simmer, it's not going to end well. And after Tsuji and everybody else seeing that wrestlers are leaving left and right, whether that's for like contract, for money, for treatment, whatever it is, 15 wrestlers have left New Japan Pro Wrestling. For greener pastures, not greener pastures, however you want to look at it. But 15 wrestlers have left. One person is in negotiation. I don't even know if David Finlay is going to be in negotiation after February 28th. But just the fact that 15 wrestlers left New Japan Pro Wrestling. And Goto is like, hey, Tsuji, don't speak up on it. Goto might be comfortable and he might be such a traditional man that is very loyal to New Japan Pro Wrestling and loyal to Japanese thinking, and I totally get it. And, part of me is like, yeah, you're right. Sometimes you shouldn't be speaking up at this time for whatever. Again, time and place. But Goto, 15 wrestlers have left New Japan Pro Wrestling and you're running around in a trios team with championship belts that you're going to get no matter what. Other wrestlers haven't been able to get what they wanted to get. It's just one of those things of like, Goto, you need to understand why Tsuji is speaking up now and why he's helping voices like me and true people that want New Japan to succeed, giving them a voice and giving them a reason to continue to call out this shit. Sometimes you need a leader rather than just being a follower. Sometimes you need to go to that uncomfortableness and basically tell them like, hey, this can't happen no more. These decisions can't happen anymore. We got 15 people that left. How are we going to replace them? New Japan is playing checkers. They're behind on things while everyone else is playing chess, not AEW. And then now the Great Khan, which is this guy right here, comes in with sharp rebuttals, right? In addition, the Great Khan, who leads the United Empire, whoa. What? He never wanted the leadership position according to TJP. So I don't know. I don't know about that statement about him leading the United Empire. Either way, the Great Khan, who is a part of the United Empire, also took to X to bite into the fundamental part of Tsuji's remarks. This is what the Great Khan said. Pro wrestling is not more profitable than card games. Excuse me? Excuse me? What? It's a much better content and parent company than a business that can't make money by defrauding the same professional wrestling geeks by saying, I love you and I'll carry it. What? Sir? Are you trying to save face? Pro wrestling is not more profitable than card games. Now, card games make a lot of money. I'm not denying that. But if you, right, if you take a wrestling fan and you sit them down at a table and you say, would you like to buy, I don't know if this is going to work, but just hear me out. Would you like to buy this pro wrestling figure in a case? Or buy this card game? Hold on. Let me just see what cards that they have. The point that I'm trying to make is that if you put a wrestling fan, if you sit them down at a table and you're like, would you buy this this action figure of a wrestling person or this anime card game? You know, like most people would buy the figure. All they do Vanguard. Who's playing Vanguard? And who's playing Weiss Swartz? And who's playing Shadowverse Evolve? Wait, are those are the only three card games that they're relying on? So how the fuck does BushiRoad make money? And you can't find anything when you click on the New Japan button. You can't find anything New Japan base. Um so yeah, Great O'Con, like what the fuck are you talking about? That pro wrestling is not more profitable than card games. BushiRoad is holding on to three card games. Oh, you guys can see everything. I didn't know you guys could see everything. Fuck. Oh well, either way. Um like BushiRoad is holding on to three things. Vanguard, Weiss Schwartz, and Shadowverse Evolve. Like, who is playing these card games? Um, because I mean, like in America, like I know people are still playing Yu-Gi-Oh, but Yu-Gi-Oh is not part of the BushiRoad. But like you know, um, who's playing these games? Too many losing turns. Are they playing the games because they got girls on it? Oh, what's this? Girls band cry? The fuck? Feature cards? Oh my god. Listen, I'll give, you know, praise to cute women and women and whatnot, and I think the Great Khan is just trying to save face because of the women on here. I'm just saying. Um Obviously he's a guy, he loves women, you know, he likes to go on dates with a lot of girls and just spend money. So of course he's going to like save face and be like, pro wrestling don't make no more money than card games. Um, to an extent, this here is probably a true statement. But then again, like, how many card games are you gonna buy if Bushiroad is just being like, hey, we got three card games here that you can buy, and there's not more diverse card games. You know, it's not like I don't want to keep using Yu-Gi-Oh as an example, but like Yu-Gi-Oh keeps evolving, so like people always buy Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and that's always gonna be a thing. They have like what I think Disney also got into the card playing business too with their shit. But yeah, bro, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with pro wrestling is not more profitable than card games. Man, you better tell that to WrestleMania. You better tell that to the Tokyo Dome for Wrestle Kingdom. You know, you better tell that to Bound for Glory for TNA. You better tell that to like Battle Riot for MOW. Like, there's a lot more pro wrestling that's way more profitable than card games. So, bro, man, what the fuck? Um, it's a much better content and parent company than a business that can't make money by defrauding the same professional wrestling geeks by saying "I love you" and "I'll carry it." Are you also trying to talk shit about the wrestling fans, bro? Don't do this shit. Confronted with the severe reality of the profits brought by the main business, card game business of the parent company, BushiRoad, he stabbed the champion's card game remarks and posted them in a row. Okay. If you don't like words like "I'm fighting for my life," there are people who put their contracts on hold, leave the group, or rely on harsh words to gain immediate popularity because they won't make money even if they cut their lives? Bro, what the fuck are you talking about? This is why I make podcast episodes talking about the Great Okan and the shit he says. What what is he talking about? Um oh my god, bro. What are you talking about? He used the word. It's a phrase, my guy. It's a phrase. He used the word "I'm risking my life" as a rhetoric and harshly criticized the attitude of winning the favor of fans. No, he didn't. I don't know what you're talking about, the Great Okan. Like, what are you talking about? It was a cold and heavy rebuttal unique to Okan. Oh, wait, is this commentary on it? Which faced the importance of earning money as a professional and the severe situation of players leaving the team one after another. What? Jesus, man. Sub into entertainment or ideological struggle. In response to this remark by the Great Okan, there are voices that agree saying, "I want you to challenge the champion with the parent company on your back." Okay, if that happens, you know they're making a Great Okan card game because the Great Okan is sucking up to the parent company. Which, by the way, there's constructive criticism. There is obvious, I'm going to just suck up because I'm getting a check from them. But there's also like constructive criticism to be like, hey, maybe we got to rethink a couple of things, that it's not that bad of a deal to do so. And it's not a good story to have a big face because simply card games have many times more sales. Again, like, I mean, it's probably because I'm not in the business of playing card games and whatnot, but seriously, how many times are you going to keep buying the same cards over and over and over and like get the same stuff? You might get different stuff. I do know that there's big money in like doing the rip and ship kind of deal, but that's scamming people. So it's like, are card games truly a really money making extravaganza? It's probably somebody's probably going to tell me, yeah, it is. But, again, it goes with the logical thinking of, if that's the case, then more people will be buying cards than going to like wrestling events. Wrestling events will not be making as much money if everybody was truly going around buying cards, if that makes sense. Like I said before, that, what do you call it? People go to WrestleMania. People go to all the big events and they like have a lot of money. People travel to go to Australia. They might end up buying maybe like a card set, one or two, if they're like in another country. But I don't know, man. Like, I just don't see it. It more people continue to say, it's not a metaphor for card games, but an analogy to being treated like a show guy piece. I think it was that too. That like, they're not just people on a card to be played with. It's better than being a company animal. I don't know about that. I don't know where they were going with that. Fans are divided in two, with voices defending Tsuji and questioning the current management system. I have been questioning the management system. Hopefully they listen. I want you to use it as a confrontation access and stage a magnificent opera as event. Oh, as entertainment, sorry. Whoa. And I hope that the players, staff, and spectators can become some kind of accomplices and create a big movement. Yes. Um, what's on page 2? Oh, it's the video. Um, so yeah, I'm on Suji's side. I am on Suji's side for this. I didn't even see the Great Okan stuff, man. Um, anyway, let's go. I'll read off. I'll read off my stuff from Twitter. Um, so obviously the thing that we just read, Goto said he replied to the tweet about the thing that we were just reading. We want the fans to come to watch pro wrestling to go home with a smile on their faces, not with a lingering sense of frustration. That is the mission of a champion. The place where we must fight is not there. Which, by the way, I do understand this way of thinking from Goto. I really, really do. It's the same kind of deal with Vince McMahon and WWE, that you want to put a smile on people's faces. You know, you want the baby faces to be baby faces. You want the heels to be heels, and you want the in betweens to be in betweens. I totally get all that. However, it is time for a change, and you're never gonna be ready for, you know, the right time for that change. So I rather back Tsuji from doing what he did in that very moment, because again, it's time for a change for pro wrestling, and it's time for a change for New Japan Pro Wrestling. How many times can we say this and New Japan Pro Wrestling is not doing shit about the stuff that they're doing? So I said, that's the goal. But wrestlers need storyline direction, be happy to stay, put their bodies on the line for the fans. Because again, in the sport of wrestling, anything could go wrong. We could have good, bad, ugly, and unfortunate. And then you're going to be like, oh, well, you decided to do that. No. We rather talk about it now because, again, it's about money and contracts, and I use it very lightly, but in this situation, it's money, contracts, story direction, happy to be here, put their bodies on the line, get away from AEW, all that kind of shit. Like, we're done being silenced about this. I was gonna be like, we're done being tired about it. I'm really fucking tired and frustrated that, like, New Japan, like, it had to be Tsuji. Fucking love this guy. So I go on to say, also money and contracts, New Japan Pro Wrestling holding space for AEW, neglecting New Japan wrestlers. So New Japan Pro Wrestling is neglecting their own New Japan wrestlers, including all the foreign wrestlers, but would hold space for AEW no matter what. And they need to fucking change that. So wrestlers like I said earlier, Tama, Loa, Hikuleo, Good Brothers, Ospreay, Jay White, Okada, Kyle Fletcher, Mark Davis, soon to be David Finlay, even though he's up in the air. Hinare is a free agent. 15 people left, and Hiroki Goto is like, no, we got to put smiles on the fans' faces. Fuck that. It's 2026. 2026 of taking back Japan. 2026 of taking back America, so that way, like, we could feel some sense of, some common sense. Some sense of, like, they're not going to be taken advantage of. They shouldn't be taken advantage of. And if Tsuji has to be that guy, Tsuji's going to be that guy, and I'll be right there to support him. And everyone else should be supporting him too, or at least giving constructive criticism to push back on Tsuji. So there's this thread here, right, that Noge had said, let me see if it has my tweet that pops up. Yes. So Noge says to Goto, what do you think about the fact that Goto, a fellow player, denied Tsuji's statement, even though Tsuji made it with the players and the company in mind? I think it's wonderful that Goto directly conveyed his thoughts to Tsuji, but on SNS, which is their way of texting people. As a fellow player, he should have defended Tsuji, right? So his stance is Goto should have defended. Goto said, I want you to think about the customers more than the players. That is noble, to think about the customers more than the players. However, this is what I said back to Goto. We should think about the customers, but eventually the customers are going to think with their wallet. Regardless of Tsuji taking a shot at BushiRoad or not, the wrestlers also need support too. Customers aren't always right as well. Many things can be true also. So Goto's statement could be true. Tsuji's statement could be true. The Great Okan's statement can be true. It's a stupid way to divide us no matter what. But the company needs to hear all the shit that like they're keeping covered up to fix it for a better company, and you get better money outcomes, you get better return on investments. But again, like if no one's really going to have this uncomfortable conversation with them, I would love to have this conversation with them. But if no one's going to do it, then we're going to be right back to the same loop, right back to the same loop. So far, any questions, concerns, comments, anything? Okay, so there is a message from Kadani, who's part of management. He's like upper management. He said because he had to do damage control too. So he said to the wrestlers and fans of New Japan Pro Wrestling, let us walk together to make New Japan Pro Wrestling even bigger and stronger. We appreciate your continued support, fans, right? Which is true, but he got to play damage control. I said, strengthen ties with MOW, Major League Wrestling. Cut ties with AEW. Cut ties with stooges in management. They're hindering talent. No woke shit, because American woke ideology has infiltrated New Japan Pro Wrestling commentary, especially talking about the women, the stardom, and how, they probably can't make it because they're women, they're marginalized. Some fucking bullshit. I already explained my whole stance on that. Consider training people who want to be commentators for the New Japan Pro Wrestling brand. Bring back New Japan Strong, and I'll manage it if need be, and shorten the Young Lion program. That is how you make New Japan Pro Wrestling great again. That is how you do that. Okay. So Goto had also responded to somebody else. Right, I'm back at the thread. To NJPW PK, this person says, but the players our group loves are disappearing one after another. I think raising our voices about that will be a revolution, though. It will be a revolution because everyone keeps leaving. Like I said, 15 wrestlers out of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Goto is not worried about that. You need wrestlers in order to make the shows. In order to even have a show, you need the wrestlers. You do need the fans. You do need the payment. But if you're low on wrestlers, What is the point of going to a wrestling show if your favorite wrestler is not going to be there? And New Japan Pro Wrestling did not quick enough make a new star so that way the fans can stay and pay money. This is what Goto doesn't understand, that like you need talent. If 15 people are leaving and more people are undecided due to management and stupid shit and decisions and really bad negotiations, and if they leave, your talent pool is depleting. So it's the right time to raise our voices 6 years in. So that way New Japan Pro Wrestling and BushiRoad knows that you got to stop fucking with the people that are bringing you the money. Just because you're sitting pretty and writing comfortably on card games, that does not translate to giving that to a wrestler. A wrestler doesn't give a shit about card games. A wrestler gives a shit about in the moment, in the present, when they are performing for New Japan Pro Wrestling in that ring on the blue canvas. Now imagine telling theater actors that, hey, listen, I know you probably do a lot, but we're making a lot more money in card games. So, do what you need to do, kind of deal. Like imagine telling that to theater people that like, oh, we're just worried about the card games because that makes a lot more money. I don't know if we're gonna keep you. I don't know what we're gonna do. We may not need you for this role, but card games. Card games make a lot of money. I don't know. I'm just making up some shit because I don't know how this will go. But just imagine if like this was the same kind of deal that a theater actor would get. So that person is right. Goto says it's something they decided of their own will. We can only respect it. I get that, Goto, but this is what I said. Their choices should be respected. But the corruption within management, contracts, money, AEW involvement, stooges talking to dirt sheets, or insert woke American ideology into commentary shouldn't be given a pass if we can fix those problems to have the players stay within New Japan Pro Wrestling. Again, it all goes back to the same thing that I've been saying, that like the wrestlers gotta be happy. The wrestlers got to have direction. The wrestlers got to have story. The wrestlers got to eventually win a championship title, because then all of their hard work means a lot. These guys aren't young lions that 11 years in, 12 years in, they're getting their first championship title. That's so fucking ridiculous of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that's one of the things that needs to stop. That somebody is there for 11 years, 12 years, maybe 7 years, and they finally get their first singles championship title. Why the fuck are you waiting that long? So yes, I am in favor of Tsuji doing this, and I will be at his side, and I really want to be his friend. If someone out there could reach out to Tsuji and let him know that I really, 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 really want to be his friend, let him know, please, because I am like a very huge supporter of Tsuji. Ever since he came back from excursion and he fought Sonata to when he fought Sonata the first time for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title, I was like, yo, he's gonna be the guy. He's going to be the guy. Okay. Those were all my comments yesterday. Those are all my comments. One last thing. One last thing. Let's do one last thing and then we'll wrap it up. We will eventually talk about the New Japan Cup. I don't want to like overwhelm this live stream, because my laptop has to be used later on for a different live stream. That would not be me. Ravage Dragon is gonna be streaming most likely High on Life 2. But yeah, so I don't want this to be like a really overly live stream. But yeah, so eventually we'll talk about this. Um, we'll see what happens. But yeah, eventually we will talk about this, the New Japan Cup. Uh, this is what I was talking about, the new beginning for USA, February 27th. Oh, my apologies. I kept saying February 28th because I thought it was like the 28th. Um, it's gonna be over in New Jersey. I would have loved to work the event as media, but we'll do it another time. I'll send out emails another time. This I'm very happy to see. I hope you guys can see this, right? Okay, you guys can see it. Um, I am very happy to see Andrade going against Yota Tsuji, and this is for the IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship title. Even though Andrade is signed to AEW, and I really don't like AEW and what they do to New Japan Pro Wrestling, I do appreciate and respect Andrade El Idolo for like him, for him being him. And this match is going to be great. Hopefully it is. And if Andrade ends up getting the Global Heavyweight Championship title, I will be supporting the man and not supporting AEW. I will acknowledge that Andrade is the Global Heavyweight Championship title, depending on if like, so for example, for Rumble, for you guys that don't know, when John Moxley was champion, aka John Moxley used to be Dean Ambrose over in WWE. When he won the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title, not this title, I said in every single one of my episodes that he's not my IWGP champion. He's not my New Japan champion. The same thing with Konosuke of AEW and New Japan now and DDT Pro. He's not my IWGP champion. No, fuck out of here. Yota Tsuji is my IWGP champion. However, like I said, if Andrade wins the Global Heavyweight Championship title, I will acknowledge that Andrade is the champion, not by way of AEW, but I will acknowledge that Andrade is the champion. This was just thrown together. This is what I was talking about, the IWGP Women's Championship title. Suri won it off of, I forgot who it was. Did they put it here or no? But yeah, why does New Japan need an IWGP Women's Championship title? They really don't. But they listen to all of the freaking SJWs and woke women that were like, oh my God, women power, women this. Like, Stardom. Stardom has their own championship titles that they can bring over to, like, New Japan to fight for. Anyway. Athena has been locked away on Ring of Honor Wrestling by way of AEW for so long that doesn't really matter at this point. And I'm sorry to say, because Athena is athletic and she's good. But she's been locked away as the ROH Women's Champion. And basically, I guess, is she? Yeah, she's Women's Champion and over at Ring of Honor. And nobody watches Ring of Honor. No one is paying for the subscription for Ring of Honor. So, like, does it really matter? Because Tony Khan does not care about anybody else, you know, and Tony Khan has not elevated Ring of Honor ever since he bought it and or maybe be renting it out. So, yeah. This is just more AEW involvement, but this is the IWGP Tag Team Champions, the Knockout Bros, and they are so over with a Japanese crowd. And we have Toa Leona and Bishop Khan here, and I really can't really say anything more than that, but I do not think that Oscar and Yuta over here are going to be losing the belts. They shouldn't be losing the belts because they're so over in Japan. If they sent over Bishop and Leona over to Japan, that'd be fine too. But these guys better not like lose their belts. They're so over. This is like a Y. This is for the NJPW World Television title, which is like a 15-minute match. It's for, NJPW World as television with my air quotes. And Konosuke is just there. And El Phantasmo is just there. Does Konosuke get the belt? I don't know. Does he need it? No, he doesn't. Again, this is one of the many belts that New Japan don't need at this very moment. This is very interesting. More AEW, because they just got signed. Which is not a bad or good thing. I'm just saying. Kushida is MLW middleweight champion. El Desperado. This is going to be a very fun match, even if I don't really watch their matches, but I have seen their matches and they're fucking fantastic. So this is going to be a really good match. More AEW involvement. Why the fuck are we having this? Why are we having this? So it's because Ricochet over here offered up a challenge to none other than Taiji Ishimori. So you're doing open challenges? WWE does open challenges. I thought you don't like WWE stuff like that, man. We all know Taiji is not winning this because AEW does not want no New Japan guy to win an AEW title, but New Japan Pro Wrestling allows AEW people to win the title, and it does absolutely nothing. It does absolutely nothing for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Absolutely nothing. It's ridiculous, man. Ridiculous. Why? Ishii is the NJPW strong champion. Boltin Oleg, I don't care who wins. I'm not a Boltin Oleg fan. There are New Japan people within the community that hype this guy up, and I'm like, what the fuck is the hype about him? What's the hype about Boltin Oleg? Oh my god, he could do technical wrestling. Oh my god, he could do power moves. We've seen that. I have I don't want to use the word drool, but I like wrestlers who do technical wrestling. If you guys tune into my tape study series, I really put over technical wrestling, but I've seen everything. There's nothing special. And if there's nothing special, what the fuck? Ishii has ruined his reputation by being the jobber on AEW, which is you're not even a pit bull anymore, man. You're like a little pit puppy. A pit puppy. This, out of everything on this New Japan card, this right here is going to be the match that I want to watch, the match that I want to review, the match that I want to make it out of a tape study, because Fred Rosser, if you guys don't know or don't remember, he used to be Darren Young in WWE. And ever since coming to New Japan Pro Wrestling, he has become a coach. He has his matches. He had a very amazing feud with it's almost like a blood feud. I should know. I don't know why I'm blanking on the fucking wrestler that he had the blood feud with. This is embarrassing, man. I'm trying to put him over because I love Fred Rosser. I really do. Who the fuck did he have the blood feud with, man? He had a blood feud. Fuck. I can't remember who he had a blood feud with. Either way, Fred Rosser is one of those guys that New Japan has definitely overlooked. And it's really frustrating and fucking stupid. Fred Rosser should be on the New Japan tours. Fred Rosser should be in the New Japan Cup. Fred Rosser should be in the G1 Climax. Because this motherfucker, man, elevated himself and elevated all of the other wrestlers in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Fred Rosser versus David Finlay, to me, feels like a send-off match. But then again, nobody knows what's going to be happening with David going. But David Finlay is not in the New Japan Cup, but you never know, that could change. Anything could change. Negotiations could change. It's just a matter of timing. However, I did find out that David Finlay lost against Callum Newman on February 11th in Osaka. So, again, it's all the signs are pointing to he may end up leaving. But yeah, so I'm interested in this match, Fred Rosser versus David Finlay. And I am also interested in the main event of Tsuji versus Andrade El Idolo, because I just want to see wrestling. I want to see wrestling. I don't want to see bullshit. I want to see wrestling. So as we went over a little bit of the NJPW card for the New Beginning over here in America, this is where I like to, again, take a second to remind people that why we need New Japan Pro Wrestling, NJPW strong. And it's because this card has AEW invading it when it is supposed to be a New Japan card, not a New Japan X AEW card. And Tsuji said it himself that when he becomes champion, he wants to, so not when he becomes champion, but he said that the only way that he fights in America under the NJPW banner is if he's in the main event, and that if he gets the respect that he deserves. He has all of my respect. This motherfucker, has all my respect, man. And if he ever wants my friendship, he has that too. And he's totally right that he should get that respect. The Japanese wrestlers should get that respect. But do you understand, even though there's the wrestling community bubble on X and Reddit, and they're only a small portion of the idiotic voices, that still permeates into people's speeches, into people's minds. Even when you go outside to talk to people and you're going to wrestling events, someone is going to scoff at New Japan Pro Wrestling. Someone is going to scoff at Japanese culture. Someone is going to scoff at, you liking Tsuji, or you liking the Knockout Bros, or you liking, Tanahashi, Naito, or whatever. Someone's going to scoff at something, right? Because somebody just wants to do that. And it's the narrative that Japan is lesser than that sometimes permeates through the way that AEW treats the New Japan wrestlers. Every time that New Japan Pro Wrestling was able to get on AEW, they were either on Collision, they might have been on Dynamite the one time, they might have been in the Forbidden Door pay-per-view, they might have been on Ring of Honor. But if they were Japanese, they were losing. If they're American, it's a toss-up. But if they were Japanese, they were losing. Ishii lost every one of his matches on AEW Collision during the summer. This guy, I used to review his matches, and I would tell people in kayfabe, obviously, if you don't know what kayfabe is in their character, and not breaking their character, so it's fake in a way, but, Ishii had that stone pit bull look. That's how he got the nickname, because he looked like a stone pit bull. He has no fucking neck. He's mad stocky. His eyes are fucking black and shit. And you knew that this motherfucker meant business every time he went into the ring to wrestle. And I kept saying that you better cross the street if you see him, because he's a no nonsense motherfucker of a wrestler, right? You knew that he meant business. But ever since he decided to take the money bag, and again, the Stooges that work for both AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling, put him on AEW Collision and put him in a team of all the baby faces that are just low tier card, and had him lose every single match. So this is why I nickname him now as a pit puppy. Because there's nothing scary about him. There's nothing at all. Ishii has really destroyed his career for the money bag, rather than protecting his character, rather than protecting him being a stone pit bull. And because of that, and because of other stuff from, other New Japan wrestlers coming over and getting a bad treatment, AEW fans think it's okay to scoff at New Japan pro wrestlers, um, especially if the fans are from the UK. Worst wrestling fans ever. Only because they really go 0 to 100 and they never change their mind. American fans are the same way too, but the New Japan wrestlers that came into AEW all were losing, and that's a really bad look. And then this is why Tsuji is speaking out because of stuff like this and other things and negotiations and money here and contracts here and, the well-being of the wrestlers. So to bring back New Japan Strong will make these events by way of the New Japan Pro Wrestling parent company for Japan. The NJPW Strong shows can showcase new wrestlers, can showcase the students of the NJPW Dojo Academy in California, can showcase other indie wrestlers that are not AEW associated. And maybe some AEW wrestlers can join on these NJPW Strong weekly shows, like how they, how like it used to be. And that again will make New Japan Pro Wrestling really good into the future. But I don't know if they ever want to. The way that this is going to work is if they take out the Stooge. If they take out the Stooges. And if they don't talk to the dirt sheets, they will be great. This is why I say to cut ties with AEW. They're not doing shit for you guys. And strengthen your ties with Major League Wrestling. At least with Major League Wrestling, there is hope on the horizon for them. And I can't wait for, all of the stuff that MLW is going to be amazing at. But yeah, we need NJPW Strong to host events like this with a different kind of outlook for the American audience while still having the NJPW, if that makes sense, like standards and practices and stuff like that, and have Tsuji be the main event whenever he wants to. He is the champion of NJPW. So I think that bringing back the Strong brand would help the American audience and will help the American marketing and tie everything back together. But yeah, I really do want to watch Fred Rosser versus David Finlay and the main event of Tsuji versus Andrade. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in on this Friday to hear me talk about NJPW and AEW and a little bit of the Brody King situation and whatnot, and let you guys know that you guys should be supporting ICE because ICE keeps everybody safe, whether you want to admit it or not. It was never a problem back then. It shouldn't be a problem now. With that being said, make sure to follow the Rumble channel if you enjoy these kind of conversations and stuff. Hopefully this weekend I can plan a tape study. We still have to go over Shingo versus Ilya Dragunov. The last two tape studies that I did will be coming out soon. Again, my laptop, I'm working on the one laptop. I do have a Throne wish list of trying to get another laptop, but when you have two content creators in a household trying to make content for different platforms, it is a lot. So later on, this laptop is going to get used again for live streaming. If you guys want to help me out, there'll be links down in the description, or find me on social media. Hit that like button. Hit that repost. Reposting is fantastic on Rumble. Over on the YouTube side of things, leave some comments, subscribe, share it out. Yeah, I'm over on Substack as well. But yeah, tape study will probably be sometime later this weekend. I'm bad with these outros right now. I really, really am. I really am very thankful for you guys to be here, watch me, and whatnot. And yeah, I hope you guys have fun. I hope you guys learned something. Don't forget to leave a comment or anything like that. But yeah, free agents and that Tsuji and Goto drama, man. Let me know how you guys feel about it. Let me know anything else. But other than that, I will see you guys next time on Square Circle Podcast, on Rumble, on YouTube, on Twitch. I'll see you on X. I'll see you on patreon.com/Marie Shadows. Don't forget to check that out. I'm trying to grow the Patreon and also grow this Rumble. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.